We're almost at the next holiday of Sukkot. 5 days after Yom Kippur comes, another holiday. The festival of booths arrives. And we move out of doors, we erect these booths in commemoration of what? In commemoration of the Jews leaving Egypt. For no sooner had the Jews left Egypt with only that which they could carry with them, that they were in the middle of the wilderness. And for a series of 49 days they wandered in the wilderness, erecting these booths to live in at night. And of course the booths lasted them for 40 years in that wilderness. But it begs the question, why is Sukkot not after Passover if it commemorates the Jews in the wilderness having left Egypt? Why is it in spring? I think you'll find the answer rather informative. 49 days after the Jews had left Egypt, they found themselves at the foot of Mount Sinai. That is when you recall Moses ascended the mountain to talk with God. He stayed on top of the mountain for 40 days, and when finally he came down from the mountain, he saw that the Jewish people had forgotten what God had done for them. They had created in his absence a golden calf, which they worshipped. Moses then had the tablets smashed, and then the people went into a point of terrible mourning. God's anger was kindled against the Jewish people. That is when Moses reascended the mountain and stayed there for yet another 40 days praying for God to forgive the people. At the end of 40 days, God relented. And then Moses had carved the second set of tablets at God's urging, this time not written with the finger of God, but written by Moses himself. Then, 40 days later, Moses came down from the mountain. Now, calculating these three segments of 40 days, that brings us 120 days later, brings us directly to the holiday of Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, although it is a very sad day of remembrance of self and sin, is also a day of the recollection of promise, of hope, and forgiveness, which is why the Jewish people were forgiven on that day so many thousands of years ago. And now we have a better understanding of why Sukkot comes in the fall. Because now that we have experienced the forgiving power of God's nature, we now are prepared to reenact and remember the bounty of the wilderness, the manna that fell, the quails that flew, the wells that overflowed with water, and God's protective mercy that is ever with us throughout all of our travels in life. No matter how bad it seems, no matter how difficult or dark our days might be, Sukkot reminds us that God is ever benevolent, not just wanting, but willing, and ready for us to return back home to our place with our Maker. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Sameach, a very good Yontif.